All right, we should be live any moment. And there we go. What is up, my fellow truth believers and lovers? My name is Chris, and this is Bar 911-970. It is 4:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 22nd of December, 2016. I hope you are all doing well and getting ready for hopefully a peaceful and happy holiday season. Whether you celebrate it or not, I hope it's a good one. And I really want to share what I find as a whole, the complacity of the people. Now, I'm not talking about the majority of people that come here, because you're pretty much awake and we pay attention to what's going on. When it frustrates us, it angers us sometimes, and we try and do our best to do the right thing. But I'm talking about probably 95 to 98% of the population who seems to be okay with ignoring what's going on. And it's a way to condition people to the point where movies like 1984 and Idiocracy are now becoming almost documentaries. And if we allow evil to thrive, do you think evil is not going to take advantage? You know, the lies that we're being fed, especially this year alone, I've never seen so much drama, so much change, so much hatred and diversity in this year alone, 2016, that I've seen in my 46 years of life. And I'm going to give you just a few examples of just this year alone, things that happened where we're being lied to. I mean, just look recently where the Deutsche Bank was actually caught with the emails going back and forth with other major banks talking about how they rigged the market, and they specifically show evidence to the point where they admitted so they didn't have to go to court. They paid, like, I think roughly around $35 million, settled out of court, and basically gave up all these other banks that are, when they were proven to be manipulating gold and silver prices. Now, not the physical, even though that's what's being affected, but based on the paper price, how they just smashed it, and they gave evidence, and yet they didn't get punished. They got a slap on the wrist. No one goes to jail. The names of the people aren't even mentioned, and they're still allowed to do it. Okay, there's one. Look at all that surrounded Hillary Clinton. I mean, think of this. The news has even reported this, the supposed mainstream media, very briefly for the most part. But think about Hillary Clinton. She was caught giving what she called a public point of view and a private point of view. And even people on the left that are following her don't seem to worry about that or are concerned about that. Just imagine if I made videos talking about how we all need to get along and how everyone is beautiful and you really need to be good to one another. And when the microphone's off, I'm going to a KKK meeting. I mean, wouldn't people be concerned about that? The hypocrisy. Now, me, I'm just a regular person. I'm not in politics. I don't work for the government. Never will. I would never work for such a shitty, corrupt system. So I'm not going to make much of an impact. You could see. I mean, I've been on this channel alone for about 5 years, and you could see I barely even scratched the surface, if at that. But we're talking about people in government, the people that are supposed to be responsible for the laws and our freedoms, quote unquote. And yet, all the things about her. What about with the DNC? When they were stopping people like Bernie Sanders, who just happened to just join the Hillary Clinton bandwagon after he received all the supposed money, I guess from all the donators he sucked, where they were rigging the election. What about the WikiLeaks? With all the information proving how they were rigging the system. What about the Project Veritas videos, where they were showing on live camera people in the DNC specifically saying that they hired people to go to Trump rallies to start fights? and to cause chaos. You saw another recent Veritas video where there were people that were supposedly claiming to be Republicans in the voting system were actually Democrats pretending to be Republicans, only caring about the money that they get. What about Donald Trump specifically calling out the mainstream media, which, by the way, I've been doing since I started my original channel that I shut down back in 2010. I get no credit for that, but, I mean, I'm not the only one, but the media even calling itself out. You know, they're trying to pretend, some of them, like I've seen video clips from MSNBC calling out other news media. They're all selling each other out because, you know, like they say, there's no honor amongst thieves. But they're saying how the media lies, how they're corrupt and biased, and we give them, again, another pass. What about this whole thing that they're still doing? The media, the government, they're all talking about Russia hacking the voting system. And yet it's been proven that, well, I can't say 100% proven, but it's been stated that the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, was the one rigging it. And when Jill Stein, or Shilstein, I'd like to say, was going around trying to make this whole big thing of we need to, you know, have the honor system of the voting and wanted to do recounts, they proved that there was voter fraud, but it was actually for Hillary Clinton, that they were stuffing the ballot boxes, so there were more votes than there were voters. Media doesn't talk about that. What about what happened with all the actors that were outraged that Donald Trump was going to become president, and they were all going to move to Canada, which, by the way, none of them said Mexico, because, you know, Canada, what does Canada have? A lot of white people. Why didn't any of them say they were moving to Afghanistan or Libya or Mexico or South America, South Africa? You know, they wanted to pick one of the whiter countries in the world, which, by the way, somebody made a ridiculous comment on my channel the other day, which, you know, I get used to that with my trolls. They say the most stupid things sometimes because, you know, they lack the intelligence or the actual skill to actually have common thought or a voice of reason. They were talking about the fact that, you know, one of my video yesterday, they were talking about how, oh, well, you know, whites take advantage of everything and whites have the most jobs in the country. Well, if you actually look this up, go to Google and type in what percentage of Americans are white. Well, non-Hispanic whites make up 63% of the United States population. Hispanics, 17%, blacks, 12.3%, Asians, 5%, and multiracial Americans, 2.4%. So is it any surprise that there are more white people with jobs? Because if you compare it to blacks, there are 12.3% of the country is black. 63% are white. Think about wars, because of supposedly all the white privilege that we have. What race has fought in more wars and was sent to kill and die more than any other race? So there's one of the supposed white privileges that, you know, when there's a war, most likely, more than anybody, white people are sent to go kill and die well, not for their country, for these rich people that love to play games of chess where they use us as the pawns. What about the video I made about 2 or 3 weeks ago about NASA and how it was either Mandela effect, which I don't think it could be, but then again, I get half the comments saying they believe exactly the way I saw it, and half the people saying it's not the way I saw it, which would give a little credence to a potential Mandela effect of people seeing things from different perspectives. But at the very least, they lied about it, and people don't seem to have a problem with it. And we allow the media to continue to not only lie and spread propaganda, but they choose not to say the truth. We are responsible ultimately for what we do. It doesn't matter. And I'll give you a prime example. Growing up, when my parents got divorced around 10, at the age of around 11, my mother started dating again. And from the age of 11 to 26, my mother was dating a major alcoholic, a very abusive person. I don't know why she did it, but it was her choice. Maybe it was a rebound that she felt lonely and this was a person that would protect her, but he was a major alcoholic. To the point I remember as a teenager, one time he used to get so drunk that he'd be banned from bars and banned from places that sold alcohol. So he would buy like NyQuil and other cough syrups. And I remember one day he handed me a cough syrup and asked me to hide it. And I was thinking to myself, why would somebody want cough medicine hidden? And it ends up, I found out many years later that alcoholics, when they can't get alcohol, they'll drink things like NyQuil. But I never became an alcoholic. Why? Because I'm responsible for my choices. And just because certain things happen doesn't mean you have to go with them or not be able to change them. So this whole new generation of young children being indoctrinated and programmed and lied to, if we as responsible people, human beings, don't try and change them, not with hate, not with abuse, not with fighting, but with education and love, nothing's going to change. And you see it on YouTube where people are fighting each other all the time. They're insulting others all the time. You know, drowning in good intention means you're still drowning. If you cannot find a better way to make change, I mean, people love it when I put things in proper perspective about this, because I see all the time channels that'll insult people that are doing wrong, thinking that's going to help somewhere. Now, it does bring awareness, but it's not always positive awareness. Just imagine if you had a child, and maybe they are not as quick, intellectually speaking, as the average child of their age. Now, just imagine if you sat them down on your lap, and the child is lazy, and they don't study, and they don't try, and they give up too quick, and they're way too frustrated to even attempt at studying, and they give up all the time. Just imagine if you take that, let's say, 10-year-old boy or girl, sit them on your lap, and say, listen, you stupid idiot, if you don't fix this, you're never going to make it anywhere. You're a loser. You know, if you don't study, you're just going to be another piece of trash that amounts to nothing. I am so ashamed of you. If you think that's going to motivate that person to be a better human being, then you don't get it. What you should do is sit them down and say, you know what? I understand that you are going through some trouble, and maybe I can help you, and we can find ways to help you want to study. Maybe turn it into a game. Make it into something that makes them proud instead of ashamed. And there is so much shaming in this world, and people are going backwards. And we are constantly fighting amongst ourselves to the point where we seem to not care about all the lies that our government is doing. I mean, if you go back to some of my videos, if you go to my playlists and you click on where it says, you know, most recent, if you click on it, you can go to my older videos. You can see that since I started this channel back in, it was either the end of 2011 or 2012, I'm not sure. I think it's 2011. But I've been saying for years how the system is corrupt. And I used to get attacked and insulted, and there are many videos of channels that would make fun of me. There are fewer nowadays because the things I talk about are holding true. But we ultimately have to take responsibility, not only for what we choose to do, but for what we choose not to do. And that's why I've always used SpiderMan as one of my role models. And I think a lot of people, especially in this quote-unquote awoken community, tend to gravitate towards Spider-Man because the story, even though fictional, sends a good message about what happens when you choose to do nothing. And if you know about the origin of Spider-Man, what happens is that he got these great powers, and before he became a superhero, he was trying to use it to make money because he lived with his Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and they were pretty poor, so he wanted to help contribute. So he started wrestling to make some money. He wasn't trying to be a hero. And what ultimately happened was he went to a place to wrestle where I think they said they'd pay him like $300. The amount's irrelevant. Let's just assume it was $300. And he wins the bout. He goes back to the manager's office after the show to get paid, and basically the manager screws him and doesn't pay him the $300, making Peter Parker really mad and upset. I mean, who wouldn't be? You know, you go to a job and you don't get paid, you'd be frustrated and angry. So as Peter Parker's storming out, there's a person who robs that very manager. And as Peter Parker is walking to the elevator or the door, whatever happens, the manager screams out, "Stop that guy." And because Peter Parker was mad at that manager, basically stepped aside and allowed that robber to escape. Now, at that moment, Peter Parker probably felt very justified and vindicated, saying, you got what you deserve. You tried to screw me, ha ha, now I screwed you. But ultimately what happened was, and I'm not talking the movie version, I'm talking the original comic version, what ultimately ended up happening is, hours later, that very robber that Peter Parker let go ended up breaking into Aunt May and Uncle Ben, his uncle and aunt's house, murdering Uncle Ben. Now, the movie, it's a carjacking, so it's a different little origin, but it's still the same thing. And that's when Peter Parker became Spider-Man, became a hero, and came up with the most famous quote in comic history of, "With great power comes great responsibility." Because Peter learned that day, because of his inaction, due to hatred and revenge, because all he did was walk out of the way. He didn't want to intervene. Ultimately, what happened was there was a chain of events, consequences. This is something I talk about all the time. There are consequences not only for action, but inaction. And he realized and had guilt because if he would have caught that robber, his Uncle Ben would still be alive. But he took it as responsibility. So we can make mistakes, but here's the beautiful thing. You can correct them. If you're still alive, if you're still breathing, if you're still functional, if you still have a voice, you can change things. The problem is this world lies to you so much, they make you think there is no hope. If you believe it, you prove them right. That's one of the things about me that's gotten me through this world, even though I've struggled and had no white privilege that they claim that there is. Trust me, I wish I had it. But I've always been the type of person that said, just because everybody else feels a certain way or thinks something's impossible, I'm going to prove people wrong. I was told since I was 10, even by some family members, that I will never amount to anything. And you know what? I am no Donald Trump. I am no leader of the free world, quote unquote. I am not some actor or supermodel. But I think I've succeeded because I've been able to maintain almost most of my life by myself, a lifestyle that allowed me to continue to live. So to me, to be happy and be able to have people around the world, I mean, I look at my analytics on my computer and I see how many hundreds of different countries people come from to hear what I have to say. It blows me away and amazes me that people actually care. Even to the point where some of my trolls have been stalking me for over 5 years. For somebody to be that obsessed with me for that long a period of time, I mean, I guess I must be saying something that keeps their attention. But we have the ability to change the world unless we choose not to. It ultimately comes down to consent. Think about that. Remember the 13th Amendment, involuntary servitude. It goes for more than just law. If you are told every day that you are nothing, you can choose to believe it because that is the easier way, or you could say, you know what, I'll prove them wrong. If everybody says, oh, it's so difficult to change the government, to change the world, well, if you say, oh, all right, I guess I won't do anything, well, then you make their statement true. There is no such thing as an inevitability unless you choose it to be that way. If you take a rock in your hand and let it go, well, the destiny of that rock is to fall to the ground. It's not going to float up. It's not going to stay in midair. It's not going to move to the side. It's not going to explode. It's not going to turn into a crab. The destiny of that rock, if you hold it in your hand and let it go, is to fall. Well, if you don't let go, that never happens. Or if you let it go and catch it in air, you stop the inevitability. So that's why governments and religion and media, they try so much to hammer in that you can't do anything. What the problem is 99% of the people believe them. And like I said, write the word believe. Look at the word lie that's in the middle of belief. They want you to not know. They want you to believe, because then they can lie to you. This is something that people need to understand. You are Superman. You are Wonder Woman. You can do anything, even not believe you can do anything. That's how powerful you are. You are so powerful that you can believe that you cannot do anything and make that true. Do you want that? If you lived with an alcoholic all your life, yeah, it sucks. I've been there. But does that mean you automatically have to be an alcoholic? If you choose to allow it to be that destiny, then yes. If you choose to not quit. Because I remember at one point, I was people know me as a DJ. I've mentioned it many a time. I was also a lead singer of a band. I worked 5 nights a week DJing at a certain time. I was drinking every night. Then I realized I was getting to the point where I'd drink like 3 to 5 Long Island iced teas and I wouldn't even get a buzz. If you know anything about Long Island iced teas, they have a lot of alcohol in them. And then one day I decided, you know what? I'm not going to drink anymore. And you know what? In the past 4 years, I've had one drink, and that was a glass of wine at one of my best friend's weddings that I attended about 4 years ago. Haven't touched any alcohol since. I have alcohol from parties I used to have in my basement to this moment where I can grab it at any time. It's collecting dust because it's all about choice. They can lie to us, and they will lie to us. We see that. And if we choose to stay defeated and think we cannot do anything or change the world, then we're proving them right. Do you want World War III? Do you want corruption and death? Do you want to be controlled? If your answer is no, then why aren't you doing everything in your power to change it? But change it in the right way. You cannot use violence to stop violence. You could not shame somebody into motivation. Just because it happens every now and then doesn't mean it's a positive thing. Because some people will just change out of spite. It doesn't make them feel good. I was one of those heavy kids growing up. I know what it's like. I remember one time I was probably 12 years old. I was over my aunt and uncle's house, and they were making pasta. And I was really heavy back then, and they always thought, oh, we'll give Chris all the food because he'll eat anything. And I remember one point I had to use the restroom, and while I was in the restroom, I heard my aunt and uncle complaining about the fact that there's so much leftovers. And I heard my aunt say, I guess I wasn't meant to hear it, but she said it loud enough to the point where I could hear it, that, oh, don't worry, when Chris gets out of the bathroom, he'll eat it. He's just emptying himself so he could start over again. So I am not 500 pounds because I chose not to be that way. And in this world now where they want you to love everybody, think about the medical aspects of being overweight. Do you think if you are extremely overweight, to the point where you're 3, 4, 500 plus pounds overweight, do you think that makes you healthier or not healthier? And if we want to have this whole movement of this liberal movement where they're lying to you saying that, you should just love everybody for who they are, well, should you love somebody that wants to potentially scar themselves and commit suicide? Isn't that their choice? But do we have to love that? Saying, oh, how many people do you know? And my half sister went through this phase where she would cut herself. That's a cry for help. Should we just say, oh, well, it's their freedom of choice? No, you have to stop what's hurting people because that's what love does. You don't just ignore them. Use love the right way. If somebody is killing themselves or hurting themselves, and the thing about overeating, because like I've said, I've been there, a lot of times people overeat because they're depressed. And why are we depressed? Because we're allowing governments and media and schools and our education system to continue to lie to us to the point where we feel that we have no control. So I was very heavy, even when I had my videos where I showed my face all the time, because I don't do it to hide. It's just easier. Right now I'm in my bathrobe. I don't need to get dressed up and put on a tie or put on a fake thing to look good. Look at YouTube. Look at how many people lie on YouTube. You see this? I've been talking right now for 24 going on 25 minutes nonstop. Am I reading from a script? Am I cutting my video? You know why most people do those cuts and everything? They want to keep your attention. You know why they stop all the time? Because they want to make sure they appear perfect. They only show their best side, showing, oh, look, I don't make mistakes. I don't care if I say a word wrong or mispronounce something or screw up. It's part of life. It's okay. But how many channels on YouTube are these bunch of over dramatic actors doing everything in their power to not be who they are just so they can get views? It's amazing the lack of integrity we all seem to have. If you want to make change in the world, first thing I would recommend is stop believing in people putting you down. It's bad enough that they're doing it to you. Why would you do it to yourself? So you could make any change in the world, but my recommendation would be, if you're going to make change, why not make positive change? It's easy to hate. It's easy to insult. It's easy to abuse. It's very easy to lie. It's a lot harder to have integrity. It's a lot harder to try and find a better way. Like they say, if you don't research history, you're doomed to repeat it, but it's also a double-edged sword, because history teaches you that one time somebody hated you. Or you hated somebody, not because you hated them, it's because somebody else told you that you were hated. Look at religions. How many wars have been started in our history over religion? That somebody's invisible God is better or different than somebody else's invisible God that no one's ever met, and we've been programmed to believe, depending on your time that you were born in history and your location. We get lied to all the time, and we seem to be okay with it. I put my integrity on the line because it's important to me. That's why I don't write scripts. That's why I can talk for a half hour to up to an hour and a half nonstop, just being me. Because I'm not afraid, and I've gotten insulted and attacked and ridiculed from people that make up their chop-up videos and don't do anything positive, because it's easy to make a video saying, oh, that person's an idiot, or he's stupid, or you take things out of context, or, misconstrue everything. That takes no talent. It just takes a breath and a voice pattern. Congratulations on the achievement. So if we want the mainstream media to keep lying to us, and our government to keep lying to us, and our school system to keep lying to us, we can either change it or just believe we have no choice. That's up to you. It's time we start taking responsibility. Otherwise, why are you complaining? And that's why, for 5 years of my life, I've sacrificed a lot of times where I could have been a lot happier than the abuse that I've been put up with here. To the point where I even quit for about a year and a half and started a comic book channel where some of my stalkers, it just shows how stupid they are. They hated me so much on this channel that when I went to my comic book channel, and I never showed my face because I didn't want people to know who I was, they stalked me there and got me to the point where I was like, all right, this is just comic books. It's not that important. And I shut that channel down and came back here. So thanks to my trolls, my idiot trolls, they motivated me to come back here when I would have actually just stopped. If I would have been successful on my comic book channel, I would have probably never came back here. And you could see for about a year and a half, that's why I lost so many views at one point. Because for a year and a half, I pretty much abandoned this channel. But that's by choice. Then I realized that comic books are just not that important. It was fun. It was nice to bring back an old part of my childhood, but the abuse I put up with, it's just sad. It's very easy for people to lie and take things out of context and have people on your side. It's not easy to go against the grain, but it's more rewarding to have integrity, because whenever I do die, can know that I tried my best to do the right thing. And I can live with that even if I don't change the world one bit. Because to me, I made the effort. And I'm proud of my achievements, as small as they are, and as hidden as they are. I'm proud of it, because I tried to make the world better, even on a minuscule scale. How many people out there, if they were going to die tomorrow, would be proud of the things that they're doing? And you could lie. You could pretend. But think deep down. If you were going to die tomorrow, would you be proud of your achievements of what you tried to do? You really need to do some soul searching. Would you change your ways? And if you would, why wait until you're about to die to do it? It is all choice. Mainstream media is going to lie. Government and politicians are going to lie. Our education system is going to lie. We don't have to believe in that lie. We don't have to follow their lies. We are whatever we choose to be. And most people don't want that responsibility. And that is why we are being corrupted and why governments are taking over doing everything for us, because it's easier. But if you think that's going to lead you to anywhere better, just look around you and see what 2016 has brought to us as a society in a whole. And if you think we are closer together, getting closer to unity, you're in the wrong business. So as usual, I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen, to all the people that make their beautiful comments. I don't read them while it's live, but I will read them after I stop this video. Watch this. If you think this resonates with you and you think it will resonate with somebody, don't just share it because YouTube's not going to allow that. Thumbing it up, I appreciate, but it hardly ever works. Sit down with people you care about and watch it with them. Don't make them feel bad. Don't tell them, oh, you're stupid if you don't watch. Just sit down and say, listen, I care about you. I love you. I want you to listen to this point of view. And then you can choose from that point to continue to listen and search or go on your way. But because I love you or care about you, I need you to please watch this with me. And this could be my video, any of them, or somebody else's video. The time to insult people to motivate them has got to end. Two wrongs don't make a right. And that's one thing this society and this generation of what I call Generation Me doesn't seem to understand. When you force an agenda on somebody, they tend to naturally try and resist. If we don't find a better way, all we're doing is helping the corrupt system by doing their job for them. No wonder why they enjoy our fighting amongst ourselves. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day. If I don't make a video before Christmas, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Despite what Christmas is really all about, if it gives you the opportunity to love and care, that is a beautiful thing. So keep that in mind. Take the other stuff and throw it out the window. You want a great present? Go find an animal shelter. Adopt an animal. Care for a life that needs your help. Do something good. Donate to a homeless shelter. Give somebody a coat. Help a child learn. You want a real present? You don't have to buy a DVD player or the next 3D VR station or TV. Go save a homeless person or a homeless animal and show what love is really all about. You want a great Christmas present or a New Year's resolution? How about we all do something to stop the corruption and make this world a better place? It's not going to be handed to us. We have to make it. That's up to you. So thank you very much. Have a great day. And let's forgive our trolls. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.